Hello everyone and thank you for watching. Today we're going to go over the Unity image drawing plugin that I made for the Unity Asset Store that you probably downloaded and led you to this point. So we're going to walk through a few things. We're going to walk through the folder structure, we're going to walk through how the UI works. In a later video we will talk about how it actually works, what the code does, but for now we're going to keep it as simple as possible and we will just keep you entertained in the simplest format possible. So I came up with this application while working on a completely separate application. It was for a D&D app made in Unity that was going to be cross-platform, and we ended up scrapping it. But I realized that this would be useful for some people because I found it a giant pain to figure out how to map from where your mouse is at to pixel coordinates, and to be able to paint the image at this point. I did have a good reference point for this. There was an asset out there called uh, Free Draw. And he did a wonderful job of giving me the very basic code structure. However, uh, he drew on a sprite renderer, and that makes it really hard when you're trying to layer UI. So I wanted to be able to actually draw on an image itself, so that way I could put it in a canvas and have it tiered, so that way some images can be in front of others, and they can all be the ones that I want can be transparent and whatnot. So here's the solution that I came up with, and I haven't found anything like it online, so I figured this would be a useful tutorial for you guys. So, without further ado, ignore this asset store tools. That's to be able to publish to the asset store. So the folder that you should get should be draw assets. Inside of it, you have 4 folders. The materials folder will give you a transparent image material. This will allow you to use the just standard unlit transparent shader that comes with Unity, and that will make your image that you're drawing on transparent, so that only the lines that you draw show up. We'll show you that in just a second. You'll get 3 resources. You'll get the blue image, the orange image, and the drawable image. I'll explain in just a second why those are relevant. The drawable image is the image that you're actually going to be drawing on. I made it in Microsoft Paint. It's just a 1024 by 1024 just blank image. The really key thing here, this is in the README that you'll see. However, I feel like it's important to reiterate because this will throw you off if you don't have these exact settings. You have to make sure the texture type is 2D and UI so that you can drop it into the source image of the image component. Um, Secondarily, you need the pivot to be in bottom left. I did my pixel transformations assuming the pivot is at 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 relative to the rect transform. However, you can change the math in the future, and I could show you where to expand upon that in the next video. You need to absolutely make sure the read-write is enabled on whatever image you're using for this. You don't have to use a 1024 by 1024 image. I made it scalable so that you can use whatever image size you want, and it should map correctly. But this read-write enabled really is key because it allows you to actually read and write the pixels of the texture itself. Last but not least, you need the format down here to be RGBA 32-bit. That way you actually get the true color texture, and the transparency is actually reflected upon in the texture. Um, Next, you get the scenes folder, which should just include this basic scene that I'm giving you. For some reason, the asset store tools didn't allow me to select the scene, so I'm hoping that's given to you guys. If not, I will update it to be so. And then you have the scripts folder. So you have this draw settings controller, which is on the draw settings panel, and the draw settings panel just gives you some sliders to control the line width, the transparency, and the draw color. Um, it relays whatever settings you have here to your draw view controller. And the draw view controller actually stores its settings in the draw settings. So this is kind of the data model. It's dumb. It doesn't know anything. It just says, I know I have these things, and other people will control me and tell me what to do. The view controller is actually what does all the coordinate transformations. It's what resets the image texture and whatnot. So we'll go ahead and start playing with it so you can understand how it works. So if you go ahead and hit play, and you go ahead and just hold left click and start dragging, all of the functions actually are based on drag, so you can't just click and draw where you're at. You have to actually click and hold. That is a quick extension that you could do. It just wasn't possible with the implementation that I made. So the line width over here, you can change it, and you can see the line width increases. Line width is based on the number of pixels around your cursor, so it goes 19 pixels on the image to the left, up, down, and so on. The transparency is based off of the alpha, 1 being completely opaque, 0 being completely transparent. So you can see as I change the transparency, it doesn't look like it's truly quite transparent. You can see it kind of, since it is all in one texture, it does actually delete the pixels that you colored before. So you could create multiple of these images and kind of layer them, so that way you can have text over one another. It makes it easier to undo and redo if you want to do that. Um, the reason this blue image is here, so you can see over here in the hierarchy, we have the background image, which is this orange image. We have the draw image, which is the one we're drawing on. Um, and as a point to make, this drawable image is actually the texture, the PNG that we're drawing on. And then lastly, we have the foreground image. So you can see if I try and draw on like over this foreground image, it doesn't work because of the way that the depth buffer is checking for the render order of these objects. So you can see if I drag the draw image below the foreground image, it will actually draw on top of it. If I drag it behind both, you won't be able to see it at all. So if we put it right nestled in the middle, you'll be able to see it on top of the background image, but behind the foreground image. So this is something that you'll want to keep in mind. Um, the last thing that you'll need to worry about is this draw color thing. It's just the normal hex picker. If you've used any sort of palette designer online, everybody uses hex colors. If you don't know how this works, just Google hex colors. So the first two are for R, the second two are for G. Sorry, red, green, and blue. So if we do red and blue, you should get a purple color. Look at that. If we do 0 for red, full for green, and none for blue, you should get a straight green texture, and so on. I arbitrarily coded all these values for like line width and whatnot. So like you could change the slider to have a higher maximum for line width. This is just what I found works the best. If you go too high, it tries to color too many pixels and it'll run a little slow. If you guys do need more information inside the asset pack, there should be a README. Inside that README, it should give you step-by-step instructions to get to this point. If for some reason the scene isn't set up exactly how I have it set up here. In there is a link to the repo. On the repo is the README as well. It's in a Markdown format, so it may be easier to read on GitHub since it supports Markdown. I will just to reiterate, I will be making a video right after this that will explain in depth how each of these scripts work. But for now, yeah, that should get you set up and should get you drawing some cool things. This is easily extended upon, so you should be able to add, all sorts of things to make this feel like, your very own Photoshop or whatever you'd like to do. This is not this is not what you're looking for if you're looking to actually draw on like an object or a mesh itself. This is purely for drawing on image. Um, a useful implementation that I was trying to do it for is to be able to have like a background map and then have a draw layer on front of it, so that way you could kind of draw on a map. So that's just one implementation or one use case that you may want to think about. That's all I have for you in this video. I'm trying not to drag this out too long. If I miss anything, feel free to leave a comment. Thank you for watching.